Had that dream again. My small business needs to hire, but I don't use LinkedIn, and I hire an energy vampire. But also, they're a literal vampire. And suddenly, my team is spending all their time sharpening wooden stakes and buying bulk silver and rehearsing ancient chants, and then I wake up.
Don't let hiring nightmares ruin your dreams. LinkedIn Jobs' new AI assistant takes insights from over 1 billion professionals to create a short list of the best fits for you. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/quality. Start hiring today with LinkedIn.
AI is incredible. It can teach you how to fry an egg and even write a poem, pirate style. Yarr! But it knows nothing about your work. Slackbot is different. It doesn't just know the facts, it knows your schedule. It can turn a brainstorm into a brief, and it doesn't need to be taught. Because Slackbot isn't just another AI, it's AI that knows your work as well as you do. Visit slack.com/meet Slackbot to learn more.
You open the fridge, there's nothing there. So what's it gonna be? Greasy pizza? Sad drive-through burgers? Dish by Blue Apron is for nights like that. These are the pre-made meals of your dreams. At least 20 grams of protein, no artificial flavors or colors, no chopping, no cleanup, no guilt. Keep the flavor. Ditch the subscription. Get 20% off your first 2 orders with code APRON20. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
That was European Cup rugby at its finest. From what we could see of it anyways, and we could not be happier. Let's start the show. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Intro Show, your home for all things Irish rugby from across the professional and amateur men's and women's game in Ireland. We don't quite have the 3 wise men. Ben is MIA as it currently stands, and that's a pity because I had a zinger of a question to ask him off the bat. So we'll wait for that. But Adam and David are with us. David, I take it you haven't heated up from the Aviva, hence why you've a nice warm polo and hat on.
It was quite cold, it must be said. It was a cold night in the Aviva. We're getting quite a few of those now. But no, I mean, it was absolutely worth it. Like the heat of that end game was something else. So yeah, no, I'm just about counting my fingers and toes still attached, but it was a good night out.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I suppose Adam, Ulster didn't play this weekend, but they won. So like when your luck is in, it's really in.
Yeah, it's really nice to have no injuries, no no injuries, no problems, but also seeing like well, it's saying that though for all the Ulster fans that did travel out, my heart goes out to you because it just seems to be like a nice trip to Amsterdam, a bit of snow, no rugby. They all seem to go to the clubhouse bar in the Netherlands though, and they seem to make the most of it. And also I've seen some of them meet Ruan Pinar as well, which is really nice because imagine meeting Ruan Pinar on a snowy day in Amsterdam. That would be class. Um, but yeah, 28-0. You know, I'm not mad about it. The stuff that happened to us against La Rochelle last year, no, not last year, a couple of years ago, still sort of haunts us financially. So it's nice that the ECPRs, you know, like for like helping us for once, essentially after the whole episode that happened a couple of years ago.
I couldn't know exactly what you mean. I wonder what that could be. Anyways, that was Ulster against La Rochelle. And speaking of La Rochelle, we will start in Dublin as Leinster recorded a 4th straight win over their nemesis and in the most dramatic of fashion. David, it's a little bit too late to be calling it a Christmas cracker, especially seeing as we're going past Nunnagnamon. But it was a cracker. It was a corker. Like one of the best pool stage games I remember in the last few seasons.
Oh, it was stunning. This is like the kind of game you want, and you can tell by the number of journalists who bent over backwards to say this justifies the whole outfit. It was like it's a testament to the 2 teams involved because these lads have faced off against each other. This is number 7. They've faced off in 2 finals, in quarterfinals, in 2 pool stages before this, and you could see from the teams named that both sides took it incredibly seriously, and it showed on the pitch. The ferocity of the play, the impact of the hits, the fact that and I don't know how much it came across on TV, but almost every time there was even a half break in play, or sometimes not even when there was a break in play, you had a La Rochelle player, usually Will Skelton, and a couple of Leinster players hugging each other on the ground. So no, like these lads absolutely went out and tried to take the heads off each other, and it was stunning. And the way the game, like I got very I'm kind of wary at the start of games now when we score first because that happened to us in Crow Park and it didn't end up working out. So it's no guarantee of future success. But we got the dream start. JJ Kenny, his European debut, two tries. Really, the first one particularly, a really well taken effort to launch himself over in the corner. The second one, like Ricky Ioane with the block down. La Rochelle will be kicking themselves back. That just shouldn't happen from a position like that. Even watching it back, you're like, how did they score from here? But it was just good effort by Ioane and then excellent speed from Kenny to get up the wing, collect the ball and put it down. So it was the dream start for Leinster, but La Rochelle um, were not to be overmatched or overawed. They came roaring back. Um, they put on an excellent display, and it actually felt weird watching it from Leinster point of view because while Leinster started incredibly well and finished quite strongly, there was a strong middle section of that game where they didn't have it all their own way. There was a lot of penalties given away. Although in the second half, I think we rectified that a little bit. I think there were only two Leinster penalties in the second half, but in that first half, repeated penalties, seeing Joe McCarthy in the bin, then Tommy O'Brien in the bin for I think it was deliberate knock on that was judged to be, you know, they didn't have it all their own way. And La Rochelle, there was a point in the middle of the game where I thought, okay, this is, it's not going our way, it's going against us. And then Act Three. Leinster come roaring back in and Sam Prendergast moves out to fullback. Harry Byrne comes on and we find width and Josh van der Flier 65 minutes into a test match level intensity game somehow sprints up the wing looking like an action man and it goes over in the corner. A few minutes later Robbie Henshaw does the same and suddenly the game swings back in Leinster's hands and you think yes, this is it, we have it, and it's not to be because Ohio West comes back the other end of the field, and that feels like a. I can't tell you how traumatizing it is as a Leinster fan to play this team, even in this stadium, and have them score right at what feels like the end of the game, and think this was so close, so close. And at that point, Leinster would have come away from the game with 2 points. La Rochelle would have come away with four, and you couldn't have felt hard done by because this was a game where whoever won it, they were going to deserve to win it. But the finish to get that penalty. And then to have Harry Byrne, who was not the starting 10, the starting 10 was still on the pitch, take the ball and go, this is on me, I'm gonna get this. He stepped up, he nailed it. And like I haven't seen the Aviva that happy during a Leinster game in a while. That the intensity of the emotion was unreal. And even though I had a pint dumped over my head, I didn't really mind because it was worth it. That's what you want out of these European games, and I think it also goes to show there's a lot of complaints made about atmospheres and intensity and that sort of thing, but I think the comparison that I think of is it's Avengers versus DC. Avengers took 13 years to build up to the intensity of the finale. You can't do that in 12 months by shoehorning in a bunch of games. The fact that Leinster and La Rochelle have been at each other's throats for half a decade at this stage, going back and forth. That's what builds these rivalries. That's what builds these intensities. And this is in a weird way in a pool game. This is the culmination of all that. And I would imagine the next time the two of those face off against each other, it's going to be the exact same again. And yeah, no, this one was worth the ticket price.
I agree with the sentiment, but I'm not sure the comparison is well within my knowledge base, to be honest. But like I would agree. I wrote about it before the game. I was like, this is one of the great rivalries. This is, you know, you're almost expecting Miles Harrison to be there and so on. And like, don't get me wrong, like Ryan Nugent on the call, one of the best commentators that we'll ever witness when it comes to rugby in Ireland. But it felt big, and it's big because it has taken these amount of games, and like it's not the first time. I think it's the third game decided by a last minute kick between the two teams or something like that. Like out of seven, which is pretty remarkable when you think about it. Last year went down to a last minute charge down drop goal as well. I think that game nearly gets memory hold more than the rest, even though that was unbelievable in the same week last year. But we spoke so much about how Leinster needed these wins. Games like these, where they felt like they were ticking boxes along the season, like in a positive manner. So we won't go over it again, but it is important to get a win. Were they the better team across 80 minutes? I don't think so. I think La Rochelle had more than enough chances to win that game twice, but they didn't take them, and you can't give Leinster the opportunity to stay in the fight and to present itself with a brilliant moment for Harry Byrne. And Adam, like, he has been the talk of the town for a while. I would have been of the opinion, look, let's wait and see how he does in a big game because it's easy to play well against the Dragons or whoever. I know that was an off night for Leinster, but point stands. But this was a moment they needed a hero. He'd missed a touchline conversion, stands up, and credit to it because even like moving Prendergast to 15, that was a ballsy move by Leo Cullen. Bringing Harry Byrne on the manner he did, Harry Byrne standing over that kick, like that's what winners do. And I know Leinster haven't gotten over the line in, you know, coming on 8 years now, but that's what the good teams do.
Yeah, 100%. It's that sort of winning edge that um, teams like Leinster need to have that sort of push. I wouldn't say necessarily that they always lacked that winning edge in those 8 years, but it seemed like for Harry Byrne to take the ball as he did and look up with such confidence at an awkward enough angle and look at his captain and go, yeah, I can take that. Certainly proves like also how mature as a player he's gotten as well to say like, yeah, I can take it. Cool head, probably the coolest head in the Aviva Stadium. I'm sure David, you were a bit shaky looking at it, but you know, Harry Byrne was probably going like, yeah, I can kick this. This is going to be fine. There was not an option of him not kicking it, in his head anyway. But the fact that he took over from Prendergast as well, Prendergast at 15, we say about how like intelligent coaches make intelligent plays and intelligent substitutions. It shows an intelligent substitution there to bring on Harry Byrne for that last minute kick. And it's also interesting as well for Ireland 10's talk's sake. The fact that we have another fly half on the scene. Not a shiny new toy. He's already got a couple of caps, but after the Bristol loan, it seems like he's a shiny new toy again. But yeah, it's that maturity that he's learned from from being a 10, like a first choice 10, that's given him that confidence and also given him the confidence to score against that very, very good La Rochelle performance, but also equally matched by a brilliant Leinster performance as well.
Yeah. And it just shows the value of players moving around and not, spending their whole career in one place and so on and so forth. And hopefully we see more of that. And that's definitely not me editorializing what you just said. But I could look, if Ben was here, I would have asked him to talk about the actual flow of the game because of his officiating background. But I think one thing that I really enjoyed was this had cup match intensity, but it wasn't 3-6-9 up the jumper. Like this was an open game. La Rochelle had two or three chances. Like Tony Latu, you've got to hold on to that pass, man. Like you have to. Like that inside ball, he was in. Like they butchered a few, but it was a proper open game, and that was going to be my point for Ben. I had in the notes here. Like Matthew Carley facilitated a great game. The two teams facilitated a great game. Like it was a real let the boys play, and I think to your point, David, when you've got teams like this who can just turn it on because they hate each other. Like Will Skelton, actually, come to think about it, I don't know if Will Skelton hates anyone. He plays the same way every week. But he's just like, I'm gonna fucking push you into the ground. I don't like you. Get out of my face. Like Oscar Jegu has a track record that people can look into that, there's certain things that have happened that may mean he's not going to get a lot of praise of certain quarters, and that's absolutely fair. But watching him in this game, he plays with that edge that I think Irish rugby often looks at and wishes we had more of. Do you know? And I think Leinster rose to that then. Josh Van der Fleer comes up with a late score. Jack Conan had a decent 80-minute performance. I thought Caelan Doris probably was probably well marshalled by La Rochelle, I think it's fair to say. But came up at moments. Likewise, Gibson Park. Thought Henshaw was excellent in this game. Joanne is growing into it. And like when I say let the boys play, that's not just let them make high tackles and score 70 tries like whatever fucking shit show happened down in Pretoria. Like that's an embarrassment to the competition as far as I'm concerned. Like 100 points in a cup game, like would you go away? But let the boys play is facilitating the type of game with the best players rise up. And the best players in this game were Jegu, were Botia, you know, credit to Leinster halfbacks, Gibson Park and Byrne and Prendergast all played well. Henshaw, you know,
Van der Fleer is
Joe
phenomenal.
Van der Fleer, McCarthy. That's what happens when you get games like these, proper old school European games. The best players perform on the biggest days. That might be something we may have to talk about with Munster a little bit later on. But David, before we move off Leinster, they take on Bayonne next week, and I actually was working on a depth chart of Leinster injuries, and then I kind of accidentally deleted it, and I didn't go back at it. That's essentially what it was. But Andrew Porter sidelined, Paddy McCarthy sidelined, Jack Boyle is a doubt. Um, there's other guys like Furlong's back training. In fairness, Slimani is a doubt as well. Snyman and Ringrose are, there's a couple of guys who are close to it. Keenan's out as well. But in fairness, Jerry Kerr stepped up on
Yeah.
the evening, and JJ Kenny has stepped up in recent weeks. And like as much as Leinster do have a genuine injury crisis, and Ireland have a genuine injury crisis, that'll be interesting to watch as the week goes on, especially with the squad announcement expected this week. Like again, credit to the likes of Jerry Kerr and to the lads who filled in because that's what helped Leinster get over the line.
Yeah, 100%. Like that's like I think it was Bernard Jackman has made a point of saying that like Trey Kerr is a semi-pro who has a job working for Vodafone. Like he's gotten a short-term contract with Leinster that keeps going the way he does. He might get himself another short-term contract. But he no, he was great because like particularly Paddy McCarthy. I think there's two players on that pitch that had you said before the game which two players do you want not want to lose, and Kieran Frawley and Paddy McCarthy would have been on that list. I particularly like even in the period of time he was on the pitch. Frawley just marshals that backfield, so, and it's almost to the detriment of his own ambitions to play 10 that he covers the backfield quite well. He's probably not quite as fast as you want your fullback to be, but he covers the field so well. He's so aggressive in defense. He can kick, he can run, he can pass. Like he has been such an important part of that back line when it's been missing Hugo Keane and James Lowe and Jimmy O'Brien and Jordan Larmour and a load of other and Gary Ringrose, closer in Gary Ringrose and at very times Robbie Henshaw. Like he has been such an important part of that back line that it was I was really, really concerned because there was no obvious replacement for him when he went off injured. And then to have Paddy McCarthy go down as well, like I think, you know, La Rochelle would have been hoping that McCarthy had to go off early because the opportunity to get at Jerry Kerr would have been tantalizing, and he held his own. Like it wasn't perfect, but he more than stood up in that situation and was able to handle himself, and he now could be in a position, realistically, where on a short-term contract with Leinster, he's going to find himself starting a European pool game because in the absence of everyone else, it's him, and I think he'll be backed up by I think is it Niall Smith?
Niall
Um,
Smith is a tight head. It'll
is Niall Smith on the
probably
side head? Who's
well to be
Alex
fair,
Ustinov? I think would be the
Houston will be the next man up, but we're not
yeah.
really sure because I think Leinster only have four loose heads in the European squad as of today. That
Yeah.
could be changed up until tomorrow.
Yeah. So, whoever it is, it's likely going to be Kerr starting, and that's an incredible thing for him. And after this week, I wouldn't be massively massively concerned. And it's that's a nice thing as well. Like this, the upshot to every injury crisis has to be this is a chance for lads who wouldn't normally get a chance to go out there and do something about it. And JJ Kenny definitely did it, taking his two tries. Jerry Kerr did it by holding his own. And if we get a few more diamonds that we didn't know were diamonds until they were put under pressure, then that's a really good outcome. And if Bayonne decide that given how the tournament's gone for them up until now, they don't really want to show up that much, then I wouldn't mind that either. But yeah, it'll be an interesting Leicester team, and it's definitely a team where you would like to have a couple more guys come back in. I'd heard Tide Furlong, Slimon, um, Ringrose, and also possibly Jimmy O'Brien, which would be no harm because we could do with someone at fullback. But yeah, like it's like these are the games that we don't, as you said yourself, these are games we don't usually get, and this is a pressure we don't usually get at this point in the season. And if we can stand up to it, hopefully it'll stand to us.
Yeah, two of Leinster's three European games so far this season have gone down to the wire, and they've come out on the right side in all three of their pool games, and that's exactly what you want to see. Just a reminder to everyone at home before we move on to subscribe to get all the latest content here, the Global Gainline channel. The Six Nations is a little over 3 weeks away now, as I believe David is frozen on our screens at the wrong time. It's a little over 3 weeks away now, and if you, well, Oh my God. Don't edit that out, Lee. Let's just go with
Oh
it.
no, oh no.
We'll just go with it. Right. So Six Nations is just a couple of weeks away. So make sure to subscribe. And as always, if you just share this show with one friend or leave a comment, it makes a huge difference. But Adam, it might be just you and me now for a
Uh,
minute.
well, it's
It appears we've got David back. Okay. Um,
it was so funny how you were frozen, David, on a zero Heineken, but
taking a
that could
drink
be.
out of a zero Heineken and then at the same time having your eyes wide open and me butchering the fucking ad read while I was on it as well while you were
Glad I got
gone.
completely cut off because I started
That
singing
was
"Oh dear, what can the matter be" to myself there. No, I'm back. We're all good now.
We're all good. But from Dublin to Toulon, Munster fell agonisingly short of a famous road win. What would have been another famous road win, I should say, losing out 27-25 on Sunday afternoon. Um, Unfortunately, Ben is still not here, so it's a little bit tricky to go over this one with him. I was there, for work, and I suppose this is really a case of so close yet so
I
far for Munster because as someone pointed out, I think it actually could have been Ben as well to me. If Munster had been 27-18 down and scored in the last minute to get lose a bonus point, you'd be thrilled. But because they went 25-24 up and led for about 30 minutes of that first half or 35 minutes of that first half, it does feel like an opportunity lost. And that's the real frustration. I suppose, Adam, I might just start with you on this. Like, it is just that sense of, oh, so close to one of those typical Munster days.
it was so close to one of those typical Monster days, and I do feel like I said this on the Champions Cup rewind. I did feel like he's got robbed. I feel like that last penalty was a a joke. And I also think there was a couple of refereeing calls that I did think didn't go your way. Like relatively not like bounce of the ball stuff, but like really sort of yeah, sly plays. I feel like for Ben White's try, Kyle Sinclair did not get out of the way of any type of tackler,
Yeah. I,
partially
I
blocking.
I mean, is that question then is how different is that one to the Tom Farrell penalty? When
Yeah.
I watched it back, yeah.
I and then the penalty at the end, I don't think I forgot who the referee was. But I don't
Carl Dixon.
yeah, I don't think Dixon got that right. I don't think I don't think he got that right at all. I feel like the way he explained it as well, that it was Jack O'Donoghue's fault that he got sort of thrown out of the ruck. I was just a bit like, mm, given the circumstances and given the circumstances and given how physical that game was and how much of a fight Munster put up on that game, I think it deserved to be one of those famous away day wins. However, it looking at Toulon and how strong and how powerful they are, and the fact that they've got so many random like England players and random Scottish players that are now going in. Hugh Jones has just signed for them. You could really tell how strong their team is and how big their bank balance is all of a sudden again. But yeah, it looked like a nice day in France regardless. I know that there's pictures on the RTE website, and I did mention this on the United Rugby Rewind that you must have had some like laundry issues, or you must have not packed your bag correctly and you must have borrowed a t-shirt or something like that. But yeah, it's either that or color blindness, as Hugh said.
Ah, no comment. Nobody go on the RT website, please.
Quite the politician.
No, the politician would just repeat exactly what you said back to you. I think that's their
I'm from
101.
I'm from Galway, damn it.
I am from Galway. Like, I don't have a Galway GA top right on right now. I've got it on fucking Hollister
Caelan
t-shirt or whatever it is. But
Caelan Doris is also from Connacht. Go figure.
I won't lie. I may have made a Mayo comment at one stage when Leinster was losing. That has nothing got to do with Leinster and 100% got to do with Mayo because I had a bit to maintain that I was the Galway man in France. But in all fairness though, and like I okay, I was photographed. I was paparazzied by Shauna
Oh,
Clinton of
don't,
Sports Fan.
don't.
And Ben will be in the thumbnail of this. That will be him if you are clicking on it with his Munster beret, courtesy of a guy named Jack, I think his name is. Um, who we got that one off. It was very cool moment. But the fact that like the photographer's like, we better get down to the marina because there's so many Munster fans down there. And it was, I think it was over 3,000. Like it's those special away days. And David, you would have seen it. Loads of La Rochelle fans in Dublin, loads of Munster fans in Toulon.
Oh,
There was actually a nice scattering of Connacht fans in Montpellier as well, which is an equally tricky place to go to. Can we have? Sorry, I almost read that out loud. As I got a text there off Adam. But it's good to see. Like the away days are what makes this competition. I was in La Rochelle last year for Munster La Rochelle. I've, been to a load of the Leinster European knockout games as well. Like they're not the same without them. Do you know?
no.
Like even like Croke Park was sold out for Leinster Northampton that year, but the amount of Northampton fans is what made the occasion that day. Do you know what I mean? Like it feeds into it. It is a competition defined by the traveling support, and I've always felt that, even when you have results that might go awry. And like for Munster, if they had pulled it off, actually, for anyone who's watching back the commentary, I think Ryan Nugent just nails the moment with that Crowley conversion where he's like, this may mean nothing, but this is Munster. It's like, if anyone's going to do it, and obviously they didn't, but I do think on the face of the 80 minutes, I think it was the fairest result. I think, credit to Toulon, like they are a quality side. Toulon should have been European semi-finalists last year. They had to lose beaten in that quarter final in the Mayall and fell in that one. But David, I suppose like maybe not the Jouet game that we saw last time out, with the Leinster La Rochelle game. But when this one clicked into gear in that second half, as good of a pool game as you'll see as well. Similarly,
It was stunning. Like it was, and it like in ways, I think it had a mirror in some ways to Leinster La Rochelle in that it I I will say deep down in my heart of hearts I genuinely thought the whole game I thought Munster were going to pull it out of the fire. It felt like that kind of day. It felt like they had that in them, and much as Toulon put on a good show, like Munster pulled it right back, and they Jack Hurley stepping up, and again it was the difference between a conversion taken and a conversion missed. And I had said, when Prendergast and then Byrne failed to take their conversions, I was like, I hope that doesn't come back to haunt us. And then you feel like you're in that position. Crowley steps up, the conversion is there, and he nails it. And you think this is it. But it is that terrible thing in a match that tight that the killer blow has to be the final blow. And the earlier that you plant that blow, the longer you give the opposition to throw one back. And yeah, it's just heartbreaking for Munster to get into that position and then find themselves right where they didn't want to be, right in the receiving end of that kind of kick that should be the way that you win a game like that. And just to have it slip through their fingers, it was heart-wrenching because they did everything they possibly could. And I'm glad that a lot of people are taking a lot of positives from the game, but you got to feel like this was a game for Munster that they could have won, and it'll frustrate them in a season that started so well and that has kind of stalled a little bit. This a win here certainly would have put it right back on track. But I do think the manner of the defeat and the manner of the fight back was enough that it may be enough to rally them anyway. They have Cast next week. Talk about old. Actually, Cast are probably the good counterbalance to my point about La Rochelle. I think people may have run out of their patience with the number of times Munster and Cast have faced each other at this stage. But I think Munster will go, okay, that's what we can do when we're turned on, and one more thing goes right for us in that game is ours. So um, it was a tough loss, but it was a great day. It was a great match, and I think Clay McMillan is doing good stuff with this Munster team. And there's just a few little disciplinary issues, which if you can iron them out, this is going to be this could be a really serious team. And I thought you got to take the individual positives out of it. I thought Edwin Adogbo was phenomenal. I was watching him in games, and like I think he's a player who's been talked about so much, and then has not featured as much because of injury. That then when he is fit and he can come out and play and show you what he can do, it's stunning. And yeah, no, I thought if you were taking positives from the game, he's definitely one of them. And yeah, it'll be one that the Munster rue they didn't quite seal out, but man, they gave it everything.
I mean, you kind of touched on 2 points that I was going to make as additional questions in terms of Edwin and the Munster cast. But just for a bit of context, this is from Neil Tracy of RT, the RT Rugby podcast, and so on. He said Saturday will be the 20th Munster Cast Champions Cup game, which already is insane, the most in the competition. It's Cast's 106th game. So just under one in every five will have been against Munster. So, and I've had this conversation with Neil myself. If Munster fans are sick of Cast, imagine what it's like on the other end, where every time they're in the competition, they seem to be taking on Munster. Adam.
How do Cast qualify? I'm like looking through their squad. I'm like, Cast are one of those teams where I'm like, I can't honestly name you a player. I don't, and I've seen Cast play once in a stadium. And I don't think there was anybody of reasonable note that played in that game.
To
Um,
be fair, a man who almost signed for E played for Cast for a while, Leona Nakarawa, and I think
oh
he's
yeah,
fairly well known
but
in Ravenhill.
he did sign for us actually, and then he failed a
That's true.
medical. But yeah, there was like a couple. There was a couple of players. There's somebody off the top of my head
Rory
that
Cockett. I had this
Roy
conversation
Cockett. Yeah.
earlier with someone, with Patricia Vieira. Rory Cockett may be the most like scrum half that has ever scrum halved, but he will always be endearing for smiling after France lost by 20 points to England, but it stopped England from winning the Six Nations anyways. Like, what a moment. Like, the pure shithousing of it. But anyways, that's cast. We'll go into that in a little bit. Um, I think a word has to be said for Edwin Adogbo as well, and others like him. I read a stat today that no Irish player has a better turnover per game rate than Edwin Adogbo in 2025, 2026. Or I think it was 2025 and then just included the last two games in fairness as a kind of like year-long average. And I think only like 10 players in the Northern Hemisphere have a better rate. Like he's unbelievable over the ball. His carrying, he had one carry in this game that I seen on Twitter afterwards where Charles Olivon, who is genuinely one of the best flankers of this generation, just didn't have anything for him. Do you know? And like Munster went through moments in this game, like they were without Tom Ahern, Sean Klein, who's now departing, Ollie Yeager, players you can't afford to miss. And this 20 recently turned 23-year-old who has like 20, 30 games for Munster max in his career, had 2 years out, stepped up on a big day. And like when it comes to Ireland conversation, like I know this is not something you subscribe to, but maybe some listeners do. But people will often say, well, like they're not beating the door down. Well, this guy is. Like I think we can all safely say that Edwin Droppo has beaten the door down. Granted, I think he only needs to fucking knock on the door to beat it down with his strength, power, and size. But that's what you want to see heading into Six Nations. And like I'm of the opinion now, when people say it's this, that, and the other, with the Ireland back row, second row, 6-2. I would be in favour of having a Hearn and a Dogbo on the bench. I think a Hearn's set piece has been phenomenal recently. I think a Dogbo's power would really bring you something. If you went 60 minutes Joe McCarthy, 20 minutes Edward Dogbo, like that could really do something for you. Especially like, and then you have a Byrne Hearn kind of complementing each other. But I think, look, he's a fantastic talent. Munster will live to regret the fact that they let this one slip. Then again, at the same time, Jack Crowley, as much as, and David, you're right to say it, like we'd be talking about Harry Byrne or Sam Prendergast if Leinster had lost. We're kind of talking about Jack Crowley because Munster lost, but at the same time, he's the one who makes that tackle at the very end to hold up, was it Brex or Sanzel? I can't remember. It was one of them anyways, to hold him up at the end to make sure Munster left with something. Do
Yeah.
you know, that's the madness of this competition when it's done right, but unfortunately it's not done right too often. If this was a different show, we might talk about games that were good, but honestly, was there many? I don't know. I watched Northampton Bordeaux and it was
I
fairly jouet as well, wasn't it?
I know that you would say that what was the 100 point game was probably wokey nonsense in your opinion, but
It was bad now, Adam. I did watch that
it
one.
was,
It was
no,
bad.
but I mentioned this also in the United Rugby Championship of I've never seen a ball bounce so much in favor of one team. There were so many kicks and Bristol had like magnetic hands to it. It was mental. There's
Yeah,
wild.
I think that's how Toulon got their try. The Gael Drayan try just bounced absolutely perfectly for him.
It's,
The chip and chase on the right hand side. But we've one more game to get to before we wrap things up, and that's in Montpellier, also in the southeast of France, as a spirited and young Connacht squad fell to a late comeback at the hands of the hosts. And it is, look, I don't like doing it, and I definitely have been critical of Connacht in recent weeks, but this is a real context for me week. Like Connacht had three academy debutants on the bench: Matthew Victory, Albert Linder, and John Devine. I'd know John, I'd know Matthew, and I'm delighted to see them kicking on and both winning senior caps for Connacht. But it's so hard because, like you are saying to yourself, they had a lot of youth in there. Like Harry West started at 13, Billy Bowen was a prop. They had three academy debutants. They had a lot of inexperience in there. But at the same time, they did have a fairly commanding lead. What was it, 31-17 with about 15 minutes to go? Like they should have seen it out, but it is just like it is so tricky. Like that first half, all of Connacht's scores nearly. The Tracy try, the Gilbert try were excellent. Thought Finn Tracy was really, really good. I think Finn Tracy's possibly, if like we didn't have the JJ Kenny season, maybe we'd be talking about Finn Tracy. Like he's been really, really good for Connacht for the last while. But I suppose, David, it is a case that like Connacht, like Munster would have taken 1 point. They'd have taken 2 points. 100%. They'd have taken 2 points that morning. But it's the fact of how it finished, and it just feels demoralizing. And it's been a very frustrating campaign for them. You're on mute there, David. Sorry.
oh, millennial pause. Oh.
There we go. The millennial pause to end all millennial pauses when you forget to unmute yourself. And I was just complaining about feeling old the other day. Anyway, I think with Connacht, there is an element of wanting to be of you should be circumspect about these things a little bit in that you're right. If they'd been offered two bonus points at the start of the day, they probably would have taken them. I've actually talked to several Connacht fans, other Connacht fans, since then, and they've actually been relatively relatively okay with it. That they do feel while they haven't seen all of the progress they would have liked to see under Stuart Lancaster, that there's points there that they wouldn't have got those 2 points. I always go back to the Cardiff game that I felt was a devastating loss. But they said if we played that game last year, we wouldn't have got the losing bonus point. So they're being relatively circumspect about a lot of it. I think the frustrating thing is that they had that lead. That between the 65th minute and the 74th minute, Montpellier scored three tries. And that's galling. That's really tough because you have to feel like if you have that kind of lead at that stage of the game that you should have it in you to close it out. And then, you caveated it with the strength or lack thereof of Connacht's bench, and that is definitely a factor. Montpellier are a strong team. They had Stuart Hogg of all people at 10. Um, you know, there is quality there, and it's explicable, but it is, I think, hard to take that they let that kind of lead slip. And I think that'll be something for Connacht going forward. I think if you want to see the upside of that, for 60 minutes, they were really good. And they've had a lot of really good 60 minutes. And I think if you can say it's just the depth that lets them down, that they just need a stronger bench to see out those 20 minutes. You could have turned a lot of those losses into victories. So if you want to take a positive approach, that's the positive one. The negative
Yeah.
one is I think these lads will be really frustrated to have been in that position, been on top, and have let it slip away. I think if they go and beat Montauban this week, they're still into knockout rugby, and once you're into knockout
Hmm.
rugby, anything can happen. But I think that'll frustrate them. And the thing I would hope, and like I said, from talking to Connacht fans, they seem to be of this mindset, is that people give it time.
Yeah.
This isn't soccer. This isn't you get a manager in and he solves things in 10 weeks or doesn't solve things in 10 weeks and gets the boot. It should hopefully be a few years of recruitment and training and refinement. And if you can get the Connacht that you see for 60 minutes playing for 80 minutes, then they could give you a real challenge. But yeah, I think this one will, much as all as they said they were happy enough to get the two losing bonus points. I think there has to be an element of frustration with letting a lead like that slip away from you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we just kind of wrap things up on Ulster, Adam. So I've gone to the liberty of pulling up the Challenge Cup Wikipedia page for you because you're complaining you couldn't understand this competition. So as things stand, right?
You two are just going to throw each other under the bus ad nauseum for the rest
Oh,
of the season.
he doesn't know how badly.
Listen here, David. I'm not settled with your Amlin Challenge Cup in 2013.
Oh
You
yeah, I
weren't even
forgot.
you weren't
That
even born there, David.
I actually won't lie. If I ever want to insult a Leinster player, I'll say I'll judge them on 2013 Challenge Cup winner as opposed to like Grand Slam winner with Ireland. Just to take the piss. I think that's fair game to be fair. But
I was gonna
anyways,
say it was first to last game was class, I must say, in the Amlin Challenge Cup.
um, but as things stand, Connacht will be a win from home in the round of 16 as they're in fourth place. They are likely to jump that though because Montpellier and Ospreys play each other, and more than likely Connacht will find a way in from there. Ulster are currently in second place. This is where it gets tricky. So Ulster had a 28-0 win, got the full 5 points for their victory. They play Stade Francais, who have qualified. Ulster can get to 17 points. There's a chance that either one of Newcastle or Benetton can also get to that, and they'll be hoping that the Ospreys beat Montpellier, so Ulster can get a top two seeding and qualify. And you could be playing the likes of the Emirates Lions or Zebra in the round of 16. But Adam, in the kind of grand scheme of things, whereas Connacht will be frustrated that they won't have that home knockout game, they might, they absolutely might, but it is kind of result dependent. They may not. Ulster are very much all eyes on Stafford saying and getting as many home games as possible, two, possibly three.
Yeah, 100%. I think Stade Francais is, well, we're going to use this cliche a lot, but it is our biggest game of the season. And honestly, in terms of the long run, the past 2 years, I think this is our biggest game. Um, we've had a difficult season last season. I feel like as I said at the start of the show, having 28-0 given to us was great. Like I can't imagine it was necessarily great for all the fans that traveled out. And as I do say, like I hope they got back home safely. The snow in Amsterdam was pretty bad, but from the pictures that I could see, the Ulster players were on boots. I think I sent it into the group chat. The
Mm.
boots were on top of the grass, and it was just unsafe. Um,
It was the right call to call it off, wasn't
it
it?
it was the right call, 100%. And also to the cheetahs as well. Like I can imagine that was pretty difficult going all the way from South Africa to have a game called off as well. But yeah, we need that every home game we can get. The Challenge Cup, as much as we joke around it, I look at the type of teams that are in it, and I look at the type of teams that could drop down into it, and as soon as the Champions Cup teams go into it, we might have a game against the Lions, we might have a game against Zebra, but after that, the quarterfinals get quite difficult. You have a lot of these bogey teams. Cardiff are looking quite good as well. They could be in the knockouts. There's the Connacht that are still in this tournament as well. We need all of the home games we can get, and we
Yeah.
need to have that winning streak right up until Spain.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't forget, of course, the now good Newcastle Red Bulls. Never thought I'd be saying that in my lifetime. Any of those
Uh,
words.
I don't think they're necessarily good. I'd say that
They're in the easy pool, in fairness. It was more of a gag, yeah.
yeah, I don't yeah well, Newport have also gotten wins in the games as well. Like I think, as I said, like you've got teams that are spirited. You've also got teams that, you look at the teams that have won it in the past, and you have the likes of Cardiff Blues, you have the likes of Gloucester. I think Sale are the team to most win it. I think I'm getting into my Challenge Cup knowledge, but I do feel like it's a massive, it's a massive elephant in the room. The fact that we're the only province in the past 11 odd years not to win something.
Yeah,
You know, I think it's 10 actually. We're the only
10
province.
years.
I think we haven't won a thing in 21 years now. It's coming up to. So we need this. This is our honestly. It's one of those moments where it's like, it's now or never in terms of an Ulster fan. I know we can have good squads, but all the squads are getting better. The Champions Cup, you have the European giants, you have Leinster, you have Toulouse, you have Bordeaux, Toulon, Munster, for example, to name a few. Are we ever going to be European giants again? Maybe, but it's going to take a long time building up to it, and the Challenge Cup is the right way of going around it.
Yeah. I love this. I love this time of year of like you start to feel the contenders and the pretenders and who's there and who's getting excited. And I genuinely would rather see Ulster do it than say a Racing or and I suppose Exeter would mean a lot to them. But like teams like that, or even like if Leicester Tigers drop down from the Champions Cup, for instance, or the Bulls, or oh, hear me out, there's still a chance Toulouse come fifth in their pool. It's
No,
very
no,
unlikely.
I cannot imagine Toulouse would try and go for that. I'd say it would be like a C team slash D team with Anton
Yeah, but
Dupont, and
like
they'd still win
that's
it.
still like what mid-table in the Euro C standard. But
Yeah.
we can mark that off as that game being covered. David, 3:15 on Saturday. That also gives at 1 o'clock on Saturday. 3:15 Leinster travel to Bayonne, one of the great away venues. But as you said, you're hoping that Bayonne rotate. Everyone else is hoping they don't, and we get something similar to last week.
Yeah, I'm hoping to God we don't, because I don't know that you can do that 2 weeks in a row. And
Oh,
yeah,
trust us. Yeah, you can. You
yeah,
kind of have to get used to it.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I think particularly if we have to rotate going in, then I almost feel better about it because I'm hoping that there's a group of lads in there after a rough start of the season who are realizing that sometimes the hard road is the right road, and if you want to walk it, then you've got to walk it. And yeah, I'll be anxious about it. It's nice and sandwiched in the middle there, so I get to watch Ulster first and then have Munster and Connacht to look forward to afterwards. I was saying something the other day that there's an upside and a downside to having your game on early. If you win, you get to enjoy the rest of the day. If you lose, you're probably not going to watch any more matches. So I hope we win because I'd like that to be a day where I get to sit on the couch for the bones of 10 hours and watch some really good rugby.
Yeah, I faced into Bordeaux, um, Northampton last week after the double whammy. But to be fair, before Bordeaux Northampton was finished, I had received news that my local club team had won their cup quarter final. So it is a little bit different in fairness. After that one, as you said, a half five Munster against Cast, and again because it's Munster Cast, you just know this is going to be an absolute shit show of a game. Like r with the greatest respect, and again, Patricia made this point to me earlier on today. Cast are the best team in the world at dragging you down to their level. And they do well because they're world class at that level. And I think it's not the greatest spectacle, but also the fact that Cast are like a league of their own makes them kind of fun. And I like, look, you could say, oh my God, he's such an old man that he prefers this than like Bristol against the Bulls. But Bristol against the Bulls was just not my scene. This kind of is. We'll see how it goes. Munster need 5 points. Munster can still get a home knockout game. And I actually think, although I don't think they've been better than Bath or Toulon in the pool stages, I actually think they kind of deserve a home knockout game. I genuinely don't think Munster have been that bad, bar the first 20 minutes in Bath. Like I genuinely don't. Like they were blown out of the water. They went, 20 points down or whatever it was. Apart from that, they haven't been that bad. Do you know? And in the toughest pool with the toughest away games. But then again, you don't always get what you deserve in this competition. Or in most competitions. Like Munster did lose on penalty shootout in their season last year. Nobody deserves that, especially with a Hendricks that winking at you. Final game of the week, Connacht against Montauban. The more I look at it, I'm starting to think maybe 4 from 4, potentially. Is it on the cards? I don't know. But this, you'd imagine, is a shoe-in. Connacht have to win to get a home knockout tie. And look, we'd have been hoping for semi-finals of Challenge Cup for Connacht. It's going to be tricky if they are going to do that. They're going to have a tough round of 16 game, more than likely. I think, though at that seeding, they will be facing the team that drops down from the Champions Cup, which again could be Leicester, the Bulls, you know, any one of Munster's could
Yeah,
actually drop down.
yeah, I was
You
gonna
know, they could
say,
could be Connacht against Bath, Connacht against Toulon, Connacht against oh my God, Connacht against Toulon. What a throwback! I remember when Toulon came to the Sportscom the first time, although it's now the Dexcom. But I'll be going. I think we're going to see 4 wins. I'm going to say it. I'm going to be that person. We're going to get 4 Irish wins this week. And as I say that, I should say that our predictions league is tied up at the top between myself and David, and just one game between us and Adam and Ben, one behind us. But gentlemen, thank you very much. We believe there's an Ireland squad to be named this week, I think.
I thought it was today.
Apparently. I'm
That's
not
what we're
sure.
hearing.
That's
Yeah.
what we're hearing. If it is, maybe we'll speak to you later in the week. If not, we'll speak to you next week. I don't know. Will Ben be back? Well, he's on the thumbnail, so that'll have to do for something. But for myself, Kaelan, from Adam, from David, from Ben, in spirit with his beret, as you will see very, very soon or at the start. Thank you so, so much. We'll be back again next week. And until next time, make sure to like, subscribe, and I hope you enjoyed the show.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.